Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye has friends. No, really, Jeff has friends. Jeff's friends are on this podcast. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship.
Friendship.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Jeff Dye's Friendship Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Dye, and with me, my producer, Tony Reavis, and me make the greatest podcast on all things comedy. It's called Jeff Dye's Friendship Podcast, and you just heard that intro. Thanks, Joey, baby. We love it. If you'd like to watch this episode and all 69 episodes before it, go to patreon.com/Jeff Dye. And for a small fee, you get to watch every episode, and you get to listen to every episode, and you get free tickets to every comedy show that I do live in the world. And if you wanted to follow me around each show, you'd get tickets for all those. You qualify for tickets just by subscribing. Unlimited. What was I going to say? Oh, this is episode 70 with my good friend Nicholas Anthony. He is an incredible screenwriter. He's an incredible magician. He's an incredible comedian. And he's an incredible person. You're going to learn that today. He's a very, very good guy. He knows me and Tony because he came to Tony's table read and gave fantastic notes and listened. And he really understands how to tell a story. And he's also just a real good human. And you're going to love this guy. Yeah, if you're listening to this, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. I know you're going to love Nick Anthony. Probably not as much as me because I love him a lot. Enjoy, you guys. So excited to have our next guest. A pal of mine from a while back, but we don't spend that much time together.
Yeah, bummer.
It's more when we cross paths and we go, fuck, I want to hang out with that guy a lot more. And then kind of forget and we have our regular lives. And then we cross paths again. I'm like, I love that guy.
You're welcome. By the way.
Yeah, that was the latest one. I actually wasn't expecting him to see them, but
I know, crazy.
And you were at your thing. And I was telling Tony when I said who we're having on the podcast, I said he's the guy that gave the best notes at your thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Like a lady, who's like a mom of one of the cast members.
What was that?
And
there was like some random Latino ladies there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just
family.
Karina's family, I think.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's right. I
didn't know that, though.
I didn't know any of that.
Like a lady.
There was like some. I was like, who is? I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then you were like, I don't want to sound like an asshole, and I feel, I'm just trying to be respectful, but at the same time, like, there's part of my brain that's like, I do have some ideas, and if I was on the other side of it, I would want the person to say something.
And that's the thing. It's like, I wouldn't have a reading for something I wrote if I didn't want feedback.
Right.
Yeah. If I'm so married to like, no, my ideas are genius, then I would just fucking write and shut myself off.
But I think all three of us can agree, not everyone's real good at notes.
No.
Right. And that's another thing that I feel like I am good at as a writer and as taking notes. I can be like, okay, great, I appreciate that note, but I can wade through the nonsense.
It's so subjective because even great writers, I just took a class at UCLA for rewriting a pilot, and the professor, he's amazing. It goes all the way back to like St. Elsewhere. Like he's been writing for 40 years.
Oh, wow.
And he's become like a really good friend of mine. But his notes were like I felt like he wasn't plussing what I had.
Yeah.
He was essentially going, this is how I would do your idea.
Sure.
Right.
And it's like, it's too
not
stinky at that.
Yeah,
like
that's
it
not
puts too much of
constructive.
you, and I don't feel like that's helping.
Right. And another thing for me too was with this reading that we did, we mentioned on the pod that we were going to do it. We haven't really talked about it yet.
Yeah, it was a reading for a script you wrote that you're going to produce with Karina. Like, it's got financial backing so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
We're kind of debating on what we want to do. If we want to just shoot it ourselves, then we probably could. But the thing about it too was this reading we had was a cold read. Like we didn't rehearse one time.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was a lot of like first time you're seeing it, first time
a lot of the
people
notes are like, I didn't get that from you two. I was like, that was my performance. That's my fault. Oh wait, Jeff was supposed to be in love with her. We didn't get that at all.
See,
I didn't get that at all.
But
either.
also, this is the thing too. As a writer,
my
like if you
performance.
can't pick it up as a cold read, then maybe it needs to be stronger. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And that's how I think about it. But a lot of the notes too that we're getting was like, okay, that might be a performance note, like that, that doesn't apply
Sure.
to the writing of it because you're not seeing what we're trying to put on screen. So, but. Yeah, it was great to have you there and meet you there.
I like that you thought it might have just been
awesome-
some random people off the street. Like, hey, you guys want to come to like a table
I
read?
honestly wasn't sure, like, because you
I
don't
don't
want to.
like your character, and you're like, oh no,
Look,
we should have
we're
brought these like strangers in to
I
read.
mean, when you're a comedian, I'm judging fucking everybody
sure.
constantly, and I'm not happy or proud of
Right.
that. Or, I mean, I don't
well,
go.
all opinions are judgments, so that's fine.
Yeah, but we like have developed the muscle of like, can I pull something out of that,
Yeah.
or is that like that little specificity of life? Is that something that I could put in something? And so I'm like hype. I don't know. Maybe I'd be naturally that way, anyways. But I went to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I love opening premieres. I love people. I'm not one of those like I'm not a introvert. I'm a true extrovert. I love people, and yet every fucking thing was annoying me. This lady who kept
really?
going back and forth in front of me when I was just trying to sit there, and I was like, how many fucking times is she
Isn't
gonna
that
go
the
to the
worst?
bathroom?
But that's the comedian in you.
Yeah.
I like to take credit for that. I think that's the.
That was like when we saw Godzilla and there was the guy behind us.
Oh, man.
And we hated him, but then he won you over.
Yeah, he won me over. There was a man that was, but that's my love of life and being an extrovert and love
Yeah,
with people,
exactly.
and also my annoying positivity.
Yeah.
Is that we went and see Godzilla, right?
Yeah.
And this guy's just like, he had all these great constructive notes about how the movie was trash.
Yeah.
And then I'm just sitting there going, yeah, big monsters, and there's a cute girl with us, and and then I like fall asleep, and I was like, oh no, like it was just like that's how I view movies,
Well, was Bryan Cranston in that one?
No, he was in the first one.
All right, cool.
This is the
But there was a man behind us who was definitely crazy, and I love crazy people. His date or girlfriend or wife left halfway through the movie, like, I'm gonna go sleep in the car. And then what I love so much about him is he was very annoying at first because he came up to the bar and was like, "You guys got any hot dogs? I want hot dogs." He was just a
randomly
crazy
looking
person.
and he was like talking during the movie, like not whispering to his
No,
partner, like
super loud.
talking so we were all involved.
And he looked like a hipster from like Venice, but he was dressed like a leather cowboy,
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
weird. It was the weird, and he had long hair. It was like the weirdest kind of like surfer, hillbilly, homeless maybe. Like we don't know. But then there's one part like he goes, "Can he get through there?" Like I'm making this up. Like let's say the lead was like, "Can that monster get through here?" And they're like, well, why?" And he goes, "Well, I want to invite him in for a beer. Why do you think?" And then the guy behind us goes, "He wants to invite him in for a beer."
Just
I loved it
commenting
so
on
much. Yeah, he just repeated the punchline back like Jimmy Fallon does or something. It was so good. I love that guy. But also...
It's super fucking annoying to sit in a movie with that guy.
yeah.
It was driving me nuts.
Like, I will lose my mind.
It was
I was
driving me nuts.
tear laughing. I thought it was so fun. But what I was gonna say is, I love that. I like to think that that's the comedian that like there are things that are annoying you while you're also enjoying something.
Well-
so like there's nobody more irritable than
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah,
but he also loves life and he's very loves
yeah.
people.
I think the problem with me specifically is that I was very short as a kid. I was small, and then I grew a lot after I turned 18. So like in my head, I still think of myself as like this meek, small, like tiny person who's
I
not
can't
an
imagine
adult.
anyone thinking of you like that.
Oh, I do. And so in my head, I developed the skills of like, I'm the guy who's like standing behind the tough guy going like, fuck you. And like, I'm going to get this going. But then I'm also now the person who looks like they could fight.
Right.
And so I get into weird conflicts all the time. Uh-oh. And I'm always like, I'm willing to be like, all right, I'm such a fucking like, when conflict comes for me, I'm not like, oh my God, scared. I go, oh, cool. I'm about to learn something about myself.
Which is like,
potentially psychopathic on some level.
I don't think so. I also think unless I've said this about you 2 or 3 times, but never to you, is that like... Here we go. Oh yeah. If unless you get so into drugs, like unless you become like just so obsessed with drugs that you're just like so in love with it. Other than that, I can't imagine you being unsuccessful. You're super smart, you're super intellectual, but you don't take yourself too serious. You're good at art, you can act, magic, stand-up comedy, develop. Even the notes you were giving, I was like, oh, he's the best at giving notes in here.
Oh, whatever. That's true. This is. I mean, I appreciate you saying it, but
Yeah.
it's like
you're going to be fine. Like you're going to.
Just for the heads up, I was researching DMT this morning, Joe.
Yes, that's the problem.
Maybe I get into
Sometimes there are very famous people and very successful people, very intellectual people, very artistic people, but then their just love of drugs takes over.
No, I'm writing a book right now about my time in Southeast Asia, and I brought acid with me to Vietnam and took this acid on an island in Cambodia that's surrounded by glow-in-the-dark plankton.
Whoa.
And then halfway through the acid trip, ate some chicken that was spoiled and got food poisoning. So the end of the acid trip felt like a ayahuasca trip where you're like purging out all this, but it was like therapeutic at the same time.
Is it more fun or less fun to puke on acid?
It was 115 degrees. I had taken off all my clothes. This is the type of place we're living in huts. And I had to have like mosquito nets. And so I would just I had to take off all my clothes and I would run in. The bathroom was outside.
Yeah.
And there's so many bugs. I'm naked. I'm shitting and throwing up. And I have bug spray just spraying myself down while this is all going on. Just going like, I know someday I'm going to talk about this on a podcast.
Yeah.
And, like in the knowing that
That's
was
insane.
like, at the time, this is so stupid and ridiculous but yet ripe for something that, down the road, hopefully will teach me a lesson.
I think that's the weird thing about drugs is like nowadays everybody's going like, I wonder what I'm going to learn from this.
Yeah, well, because they're contained. We have so much information now.
I think people used to just do drugs and go, man, I'm hoping to just escape and enjoy this for a little while, whether it's an hour or a week or whatever it takes. Nowadays, people are like, well, Phil Jackson became Phil Jackson because of this drugs.
Yeah, that
and maybe I'll be inspired.
Yeah, it's definitely derivative. And that is unfortunate. So then you for yourself, you start to go like, because now mushrooms are everywhere.
Right.
It's like when we were kids and we were taking mushrooms, we thought it was so salacious, and it was. We were fucking 15.
Right.
Who knows what it did to our goddamn brains?
Right.
I mean, I lived in an area where like a kid figured out how to grow them, and we were taking them all the time.
That's amazing.
And it was in lieu. I mean, we were also like, we all worked at this pizza place, and the guy was just so coked out of his brain that we would just steal kegs out of the basement. And there's a week, very famous week when I was like 15 called Keg Week where, 15, I mean, that's pretty fucking young to be like raging.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
young.
the most extreme thing adults do.
Yeah.
We're taking the most extreme thing adults do and doing it at 15 is pretty wild.
And a kid, and this is the other side of this coin, that week we partied every Tuesday through whatever Saturday. And on Saturday night, and this is like a fucking tragic story, but he walked home on the train tracks and passed out.
Oh, no.
And a fucking train ran him over.
When are they going to update train brakes?
Yeah. It was just one of those deals, man. That
I think gravity's got a part to do
gravity's
with
fucking
it.
that.
All right.
Like they can't just
It's
stop
like
on it. You can't just stop on a
crashes
dime.
and stuff. You
Yeah.
see all because they're hauling so much weight. I guess it's
Just
just
so much weight. Yeah, it takes I think like 2 miles to slow a train down.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. No.
Like that Chris Pine movie.
Oh, that was a good movie. Yeah, what happened to Chris
Denzel.
Pine? Is he still doing stuff? Is he all right?
Yeah.
I don't
was in
understand
a-
the Snowpiercer obsession.
He was in
I
Spider-Man.
started it and couldn't get into
It's
it.
just weird that all this shit is on a train. I just don't get it. Like,
Why don't you just get off the train?
well, the thinking of the new one is that the world is, completely frozen over.
Yeah.
And that this train is the only thing that is going. It's like you're just buying into this huge, you have to really squint to buy this premise.
Yeah, the world got smaller.
Yeah. And then we have to, because they're just like, somebody sat and they're like, let's just contain a world on a train. Like, how do
Right.
we do that? And you're like, okay. And then it was probably like a great novel, I'm assuming. I don't know how that's a fucking movie.
I don't know. Well, who's taking care of the tracks that it's on?
That's what my point
Who's
is like, if it's all,
fueling it?
yeah, everything, all of these questions. And yet you get like Tony Award winning actors are in
Yeah.
this. And it's like this, it's like the first one is really well respected. Like
The answer's always like, don't worry about it. Like when I was a kid, I was like, Dad, how come on TV I never see anybody poop or pee or nothing? And he's like, looked at me, even like I was a moron at like a little kid age, like, what? I don't know. Don't worry about it. I was like,
Yeah, no, my girlfriend, to this day, I've been dating this girl for 2 years and I still have no idea when she's so, it just.
Oh, she sneaks away.
She's
huh?
elusive.
You know what I'm saying? Like
That
there's
makes me nervous.
there's a wage gap in this country and it should be not a case, but women stop with the I don't have poop thing. Like that, if a guy isn't fucking you because they think you have shit inside of you, I just think it's
Right.
I,
I grew up with
have a weird take on that.
Well, that's like a hacky girl thing they like to do. I've heard girls say a lot of the same stuff, Oh, I don't poop. Girls don't poop.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
just
sure you
stupid.
do. I
Yeah.
grew up with sisters and a mom. You all puke, poop, and fart.
Yeah.
Oh, I never do this. I'm not usually like this.
She doesn't
You
say
do.
that stuff. She doesn't like say it. It's just like I've just noticed. I'm like, what? I've never.
Yeah.
This is a weird thing. We are very close.
Just trying to be respectful about it, I guess.
Yeah, I
So,
get. Yeah,
here's a weird
that's
story.
really like ultimately. I have like a decent human, and I'm just complaining that she's not like a little more.
She should be
rough
more
around
foul.
this beautiful creature that I love.
Give me some excuse.
I don't have to try so hard.
One time, this is so long ago, but I was dating a girl, and then we took a couple out, like kind of on a double date that we didn't know that well, or maybe she did, but I didn't. And he was dating a girl from Japan, and he said like one time, like he was taking a poop, or no, not one time, a bunch of times when he takes a number two, she will want to come in the bathroom, take off her pants, and sit on his lap with her skin to his skin, just to kind of experience what he's experiencing with him. And he's like, I don't enjoy it, but she does it all the time. She's just super into this. And,
don't enjoy
and then
it.
we're like, what did she? And he goes, well, her excuse is that she says, I want to experience everything with you. I want to know every little thing that you do.
Jesus.
Right, so listen to this. So me and her are judging it. I'm doing jokes. I'm like, what a weirdo. And then jump cut to like the next week. I'm going number two, and she knocks on the door, and I was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
She's like, let's do that thing. I was like, no, let's not do that thing. What are we talking about? I'm not letting you. And she did. It took forever because I was like, I can't poop like this.
That's
It was so weird.
I mean, it brings up the idea of it's the Jerry Maguire idea of like someone completing you.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to you being like,
No.
hey, babe, I need to have something of
I need
my own.
something.
Something
Yeah.
should not be completed.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, you don't need. Yeah. Oh, and what's
Yeah.
I have roommates, and I thought no one was in the house. And so I went to take a shit thinking like, all right, I got this, I don't have this victimless crime here.
Yeah.
I get to really stretch my legs and enjoy
Victimless
this.
crime, yeah.
And it was back when LA was like a little bit cold. It was like, oh, frigid.
Yeah.
Is that? And so I kind of scurry into the bathroom morning, wiping the sleep out of my eyes. And I sit down on the toilet, and I could feel the warmth from my roommate's like he had been there recently.
no, yeah.
And it was one of those moments where I was like, I was angry at myself how much it made me feel not alone. Like it was comforting to like have this. Like it was like
Someone else was here.
yeah, I was like, oh, I'm not alone. You know? So now anytime I sit down on a toilet and it's cold, I'm always like in an existential like, oh, I'm just gonna die alone.
Oh,
This is-
No.
You need one of those toilets from Asia where it has like the
the
heater.
warm- yes.
and the heat seating.
Exactly.
You need a Japanese woman to sit on your lap.
Those
I
are
think.
amazing, by the way.
You know, she changed her opinion on that when I started sitting on her lap when she took a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a weird thing. So many things came into my mind when we were talking about all that. You were saying the irritants that you had when you went to the movie premiere of all those things, which there's this kind of thread line in your writing in the thing you have Unlikely Assassins, where you're just like, and I love my favorite part for anyone that hasn't seen it, go to unlikelyassassins.com and check it out. It's hilarious. The first 2 acts are on there. It's very brilliant in my opinion. Well shot, very beautifully shot.
It looks great.
Because it doesn't matter how good your idea is. If it's not shot well, it stinks.
Right.
And
That's a dude named Nick Smith directed it. And then Ken Wales, who's done a bunch of stuff for Netflix, and a guy named Andrew Davis. Andrew Davis did Gore Burger. Remember T.J. Miller's thing? Mm-mm. It was a show on, I believe it was on Comedy Central, where he plays I
did see that.
giant. He's the voice of this like talk show host who ends up eating his guests, like a Japanese play on a Japanese. Anyway, that was Andrew. So we got really lucky, and yeah, they shot.
It's really, really funny, and I really like it. You don't need to know anything about it. Just go to it and watch it and let it unfold. It's really fantastic. But the thing that's in it that I find funny is your irritants with things. You're naming all the people you could kill and how easy it would be. But I like the choices you made, like foodies. Like I'm not a foodie, so I have identified with that.
Someone smoking with their kids in the back seat.
Or the groceries
was
and
me.
leaving the shopping cart. Like it's just public decency. The people that keep sunglasses on the back of their shirt. And then,
Shit out of me.
and your friend in the thing in the script's like, oh, my dad does that, which I really like. Because it doesn't matter any of those things you do hate people doing, but like we probably know people who we love who are all those things, and that's what makes it so great. But it's also very comedic in the fashion that like it takes the simplest things to annoy. And I love that so much.
Well, my favorite one, and I've watched the thing a million times because you edit it, but to this day, when I say anyone named Keith.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just like, so it's like, because when in my head I think about this kid I went to high school with and he was just fucking annoying.
just
And
didn't
every
like
time I
him.
meet
Yeah.
a Keith, and just like, which is just so dumb. And
I've
like,
never met a Jade that wasn't hot. However, I've never met a Jade I liked. Like, they're always gorgeous and the worst. Like, they didn't know that when they had a baby. They didn't know, like, oh, that's going to be a hot baby that everyone hates. But it happens. It happens.
Yeah, or is it the other? And do they go into the name? You
Oh,
know?
that's it.
Do they? Like you look at a
Sociology versus psychology.
Who looks at a baby and says, Carl?
Right. People say that to me all the time, though. They go, you don't look like a Jeff. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. That
That's
means you
so
don't
weird.
like Jeffs and I'm nice or something? Or does that mean you like Jeffs and you don't like me?
How do you look like a name? People are like, oh yeah, you look like a
There-
Tony. I'm
yeah.
like, you only know me by Tony. If my name was Jacob and you knew me as Jacob, I would look like a Jacob.
Yeah.
To you.
Well, but
Oh, by the way, with Tony, just so you know, in our earlier conversation, he hates it when I do this. You're talking about drugs and acid and mushrooms at 15. Tony's never done a drug in his life, never had a drop of alcohol, and he's never used a razor, I learned today.
never used
like a
Not
straight
once.
razor, or not a straight,
Like a
but
Mach 3 or a
yeah.
Bic. He's never used one.
like a disposable.
You
Never-
would just use like a clippers and then shave it down.
And he had a dad.
I just have a dad.
Yeah,
I still
that's
do.
what I'm saying. Yeah, but you grew up with a dad.
Yeah.
Your dad's a fantastic guy.
Did he
Loves,
try to teach you?
No, you just
Why not?
Because so once I started shaving, I was like in 7th grade. I started shaving real early.
Yeah, but how do
But
you
it was-
start shaving in 7th grade without
It was-
using a razor?
So like I had facial hair like yours. I just used one of those, like it had the 3 heads on it, one of those electric trimmers,
Oh, okay.
and just doing one of those.
Like a Norelco.
Yeah.
kinda-
Exactly, and that's all I learned.
Like
by.
a stockbroker from the 80s.
Yeah,
on his way
yeah.
in.
That is fascinating.
And
Did you
just-
have such a baby face maybe at the time
Yeah.
that like that was like a clean shave?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly right. Like I was shaving before I really needed to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's why, and that's also why I grew facial hair early.
Right.
You know, because like you shave
Yeah.
and it comes back thicker. So that's what happened. I also get like bad razor burn
Okay.
because so I've always just been scared of those.
Okay, so we don't want to pressure you to do drugs, even though I have many times.
Yeah.
And we don't want to pressure you to drink, which I have many times.
Right.
But can I pressure you to go get a clean, straight razor shave at a place
My
if I
whole
pay
face?
for it? Yeah.
No way.
Oh,
What do
dude,
you-
I bet
you-
you it would be.
It's
it would
part
be
of
an
the brand,
amazing
baby.
Well, it would
Yeah,
grow
but it
back.
grows back.
Nah.
Hair's free, dog.
No, man. What if it doesn't? What if it doesn't?
What are you talking about?
No, because I look like Wreck-It Ralph when I don't have a beard.
And people love Wreck-It Ralph. And he's way more famous than you.
Yeah, John Goodman. He fucking there's a
No,
great.
can't do it. I don't like my naked face.
My mom was just being a female. She didn't teach me how to shave my face, and I don't know if when you do your Adam's apple, I didn't know the pull the skin aside technique.
Sure.
And I had to have a friend of mine
Teach you.
Yeah, my buddy, he was like, no, you do this.
Yeah.
You shave it over here and then you let it. And I
Yeah.
was like, at the moment, I was like, you are not my dad and you're teaching me this
Oh,
weird
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
When I have a kid, I'm going to be like, no, I'm teaching him that.
You know
I'm
how
teaching
many
him to pull
quote
aside.
unquote man things I've learned from friends or friends' dads? And it's not a knock on my birth father, but it's just like fishing
Birth
was
father.
taught to me by Terry Bradshaw. Hunting was taught to me by my buddy's dad. Cigars, again, that was like a Terry Bradshaw thing. The tying a tie, I learned at some weird tweaker's house, and he was like
YouTube?
this cool guy. He's like, "Yeah, you want to learn how to tie a tie?" I was like, "Yeah," and it's a strange. So I'm not surprised a man that grew up with just his mom shaving.
It's just a weird. It's just something
She
you
doesn't
didn't
even know that technique.
No, because she doesn't have an ad. I mean, it's a very male.
She doesn't shave her neck.
Well,
She wouldn't need to know the technique, even if she shaved her neck.
exactly.
She doesn't have an Adam's apple.
Yeah, no, it was just a weird, subtle. As a kid, I'd always I'd take a little piece of toilet paper and have to put it there
no.
because it would always bleed.
Wait,
wow.
Did it make you closer to that friend a little bit? Like,
It
oh,
was
this is a
so
sweet
intimate.
moment.
Yeah. We're close just regardless, but I remember I was just like, it's a stupid thing. It was,
I love it.
Have you ever used a straight razor?
I've never done that, but I've gotten it.
Yeah, isn't that a weird? It always just kind of weirds me. I love it. I get my hair cut and then they do it for the back of your neck, and
Yeah.
just I'm trusting a stranger
Sure.
with a straight razor.
When it's on your neck, that's why there's so many Western scenes. It's because you really are playing with fire right
Yeah,
there.
it's such a weird thing.
One thing I find fascinating about the straight razor, and anybody that works at the art of shaving or takes this kind of facial hair stuff serious is going to hate this part.
Uh-oh.
But when I got the straight edge shave, he's just going down a little bit like super slow, and then rinsing it off. A, because it's very sharp, and B, because you can get it by going like slow. I tried the exact same technique with like a Mach 3. Instead of just going like this and then like going up, I like went real slow and just treat it like a straight razor. It did the exact same thing.
It got in there deeper, you're saying?
Yeah, it got in there deeper. It was more because when you drag it this far, all the hair collects, so it's not like doing as well. Whereas if you're willing to just treat it and take your time like a straight razor, it's just as good. Yeah. And people might hate that's not true, but I'm in my experience, it felt like it was true.
So you're saying you're like, you don't need to get the straight razor treatment because you can just do it.
If you're willing to take the time and do it yourself, you can just go slow, rinse it every single time you go down like a quarter of an inch. Because I don't think most people do that. I think most people do like a big long streak, and they rinse the hair out.
I think that if I was to go get a straight razor, it would be it's the experience of, and like getting the towel and just feeling, not in like a toxic way or whatever, but just connecting to your being a man.
I love that had to be a disclaimer you just said.
I hate to, in this,
that's the way it goes.
It's just what it is.
It's okay to like man shit, and it's okay to call it man shit, because women would.
Yeah.
Let's say I was doing like a fishing trip with hunting with like a bunch of my pals, male or female, and while we're there, we're gonna smoke cigars and we're gonna watch like Bruce Willis films. There might be a few feminists that go, "This didn't feel very feminine." Oh, well, what is feminine? I thought you didn't subscribe to gender roles. This is just stuff we're doing.
Yeah. I guess I think part of it is like I just don't want to sound. I want to be a person of my time.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I want to be myself. And it's like, I naturally was raised with a single mom. Like, there wasn't the, misogyny or racism, all that stuff just wasn't part of my story young.
Yeah.
And then as an adult, just walking into a room, I feel like you're defined by that. And it's really hard because I'm so oblivious to it that it potentially I fear it could come across as me being naive. And I don't want I want to like recognize it and learn and like say, all right, cool, I get what I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
And but I'm not those. It's just weird. It's just such a weird thing to.
It's a weird time. Like and maybe a lot of edit this out. I don't know if we will, but like when a man does anything masculine, it's labeled toxic masculinity, and he's somewhat shamed in liberal cities.
Yeah.
However, when a woman does anything toxic masculine, they get a Netflix special, and they're celebrated, and like, good for her. Oh, she's taking a shit, or talking about banging guys.
Yeah.
You're like, guess what? It's not cute when men do it, and it's not cute when you do it.
Well, but, and to say that there's not great, like look at somebody like Mr. Rogers, for instance, like what a tremendous, like interesting dynamic, not defined by, he was in fucking Vietnam and was, has all sorts of, it comes from a place of like, it doesn't have to just be one side of the coin. Like I have that, there is caveman in me.
Sure.
But then there is still a sweetness, a tremendous sweetness in me that, it's
because you're little inside. You're all short.
Yeah, you're a small guy.
Yeah. Well, I honestly am just trying
to.
Yeah, like I want my high school friends to still think I'm really cool.
Yeah.
Like, and I, as much
but
as
I think that you don't have to apologize for any of your traits that are sweet and or man. Like, and I think the same thing with women. They shouldn't have to apologize for any of their traits that are feminine and or masculine. It's because that should be the best part about being alive right now, is that we get to do any of the things we want. I paint my fingernails, and I also enjoy a cigar and talking shit. And you know what? I've had some pretty deep talks with lesbians about how much we appreciate the female's body, and it wasn't masculine when we were doing that. Those were women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I had got my toenails painted when I was in Thailand.
It's
just slowly grown out. I've left it on
now
like
you have
that
a blue French tip.
Exactly. It looks like I have some rats.
It's amazing.
It fucking freaks people out, though.
But it's
one
of
those
things.
Things. Because it's just, we tell it, we're in a story. We're in a collective story. And in that story, it's changing at a pace of, things, we're changing the story. Right. And we're in a time where that story is changing very fast. And that fucks people up. And I'm pro progress. I want all that stuff. Right. But I also recognize, and not that I'm a political person at all, but like I can appreciate both the, let's just say, Democratic and Republican point of view, because or liberal and conservatism. Like liberals are looking to have things change very fast, very now. Like we want the rights right now. This is what should be happening. And conservatives don't want any change. They want this to stay this. And so our progress. There is progress, but if it goes too fast, the society spirals out of control. So there has to be a balance on like, all right, how do we move forward with this?
Well, and also like, I guess I'm just in the vein of like, I want progress, but I also don't need those other things to be deleted unless we're talking about like intolerance or like, unless we're talking about like racism or violence or some sort of hush hush of those subjects. But when you're just talking about like a man who wears like a camouflage hat, who he fits into your stereotype of what you disagree with. You don't know that man.
Absolutely.
And I love that man. I'm sorry, he lives on a ranch. And he has like a different lifestyle than me. That doesn't make me not like him. Yeah. But there is this kind of like, especially living around here, that like, anything that's like that, like I have to not like. But you're presuming you know those people.
Yeah, just like when I grew up in the 90s in Minnesota and, my teachers were calling me gay. Yeah. And that was its own bubble. LA is its own bubble as well with all of the different things that are. And leaving here is important to remind myself that it doesn't have to be just that way. I mean, how does that affect, I still feel like I haven't fully wrapped my head around that comedically yet.
I'm doing a lot about it right now in my act currently, but it's like the idea of like, this isn't the joke, but just the idea of like, I've watched people roll their eyes when I bring cigars and say, let's go to a baseball game. Like they look at me like, oh, I thought I knew who this guy was. He's an artist and all that, but evidently. And so I want to celebrate both. I want all the sides, and I accept and love all those sides. And I also, again, talking about this on the podcast, is just the idea of like, I don't hate racists, and I don't hate Nazis, and I don't hate misogynists. I hate what they think, and I want to change them. Because guess what? You weren't always this woke, and neither was I. But we all walk around pretending we've always been this good.
No, I'm admitting that I still have a long ways to go. Yeah. Like there's still a lot of.
So they're just not woke yet. Yeah. Let's wake them. Let's try to win over these people that
don't want to listen.
But it's also I understand like the perspective of somebody who's like a white nationalist from I disagree, but I also understand like, hey, I want my heritage to be protected. Like let's say you're Irish, and then I think I could be wrong on this, but I believe the mayor of Dublin is a Pakistani woman, something really like what?
Not Irish.
And I can see how somebody who is whatever classic Irish would go like, wow, that is now allowing this influence, and now Ireland is changing, and you're not gonna progress wins every time, but I get it. Right. I get why they would go. I grew up like if Minnesota all of a sudden, was like, oh no, we're getting rid of the Vikings, and Minnesota, Wisconsin became the same thing, and we're now Packer fans, and you're just like, what the fuck?
Right.
And it changes hard on people. I think we should have some more respect for the fact that it's changing so fast and so quick, and the rules and to get mad at people, I guess is just part of it, but it's just. I don't know. I guess we can only speak from our own perspective. Yeah. I am this perspective.
I just wish we didn't get so mad at each other.
Yeah. Right. Even the things that seem justified to get mad about, I want to step back and go, we shouldn't. Nobody's changing by being yelled at or shamed on the internet.
Right.
So it's like if let's say you're a womanizer, what we should do is teach you to not be a womanizer. Yeah. Not just take everything away from them, hate that person, shame on them, they're dead to me, they're pieces of shit. Why would he change then?
Yeah.
He would just disappear or kill himself necessarily. Like, that's probably what he would do, or try to hide from the internet and say, we got to change people. That's how you become woke. I was homophobic till I was like 16 years old because I didn't know any gay people and I didn't know nothing about it. Yeah. And then I learned that's the bad way to be, and I don't want to be like that, and they're humans and I love humans, and yeah.
But now we are the pendulum is swinging the other way, and so there's extreme and who's the old owner of the Clippers, Sterling?
Oh yeah, Donald Sterling. Yeah. Which was the weirdest type of racism. It was like old timey.
Yeah.
Where he's like, no, I own them and I love them.
Yeah. It was
slavey.
It was obviously wrong, and it was smart how the NBA got him out and all that stuff. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wrote an article, and the language he used essentially was, although essentially talking about the idea that this was clearly wrong and that this guy was his thought process, and obviously him being a black man, his perspective was very interesting because it was the pendulum had gone so far against this guy.
Sure.
And he for a second just said, although you didn't bake the cake or bake the pie, you are gorging yourself on it.
Right. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, meaning this idea that like it's so salacious that you're giving it all this energy, and that's not necessarily the right response either.
I agree. No, I mean, I think Jim Kilstein talked about this too. Is like he would go on the internet every day as like an extreme incumbent, I'd say, of like liberal ideas on Twitter, and it should also be noted that's the smartest sentence I've ever said.
You said something I don't even know what it means for the first time.
I would say like Jamie, like he said, even admitted he would wake up every day and be like, all right, who am I destroying today?
Yeah.
Who's done something so wrong on the side that I don't play for, that I can shame them on the internet?
But that's wrong. Like to me, that's egregious.
He knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
He later became and knew it was wrong. But in that time, he's like, I get to be this liberal Twitter god. And so what took him being humbled was having to go through something where the internet turned on him. And he realized, that's a gross way to feel. And I did this to people every single day.
Well, I believe we're the first generation of people that now in my phone I have access to every single person I ever met.
Oh my gosh.
And we don't know how that's going to affect all of us.
Sounds like a humble brag, but just today I talked to Ricky Williams, Tito Ortiz, Nick Thune, Beth Stelling, Nikki Glazer. This was all just this morning because I'm trying to schedule everyone's guests. Marlon Wayans. I mean, like literally, like I should not have access to that many different people.
Yeah, but
I'm
saying
morning at coffee.
even the girl that you wronged in third grade.
You can find her.
It's like, but you could be with. I ran into somebody from high school, and then you could go, hey, let's see what that like. My girlfriend and I grew up across the street from each other when we were little kids, and then 30 years later reconnected. And so we're just a treasure trove of like, what's that person up to? And then we get to go in and see what they're up to.
Absolutely.
It's like,
it's killed the high school reunion.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. I have
Yeah.
my 10-year this year, and I'm like, I don't fucking care.
You don't have to
I
go.
know what everyone's up to.
And guess what? They're going to treat it like a regular Thursday night.
That's what
all
I'm
those
saying.
people that are still in that town are going to go, I see these people all the time.
yeah.
I see some of them maybe a little less, but I don't need to do this. But
And now that
I've got nothing else going on
and now that
tonight.
I'm gone, it's like I talk to the people who I want to talk to from back home.
Yeah.
So I don't need to go home and see the people
There's
that
no
just
more
doing
like,
the dumb
you've
shit.
changed so much.
Exactly. Everyone knows what I'm up to.
Yeah.
They know I'm here doing this. They know I'm sitting here with you.
Right.
If they cared, we would be talking about it already. I don't
And
need
I'm
to
one of
go to
those
this
guys-
event to talk about it.
I'm one of those guys that posts photos of his brunch, his coffee, his shoes. Like they're even up to date on my wardrobe and diet.
The question becomes, and I'm admitting this for myself, you're not putting the true pain on there. You're not. They're not seeing the full.
Well, why would
version.
you? Yeah, exactly.
Why would like it creates such an inflate. Like the problem is, I have curated my feed in such a way where it would be fun to go back to my high school because I know they would all be like, "Oh my God, everything's so great," and I could just do a victory lap and it would be fun. But then I'm really like, the whole time I feel like I'd be like, there's other shit. And like,
But when
I
people
failed a bunch. And
when anybody puts anything remotely, what's the term? Anything
Negative
like
or honest,
remotely vulnerable that is in the sadness thing on social media, I then internally, maybe just I do this, go, gross. Why are they sharing this with everyone? That's too vulnerable. It's like your wedding vows. I don't think it's meant for both families to be hearing it. I want that intimate moment with people I love and trust who then I share it with. And I think the same would be like if you're going through like spousal abuse or something, like I don't need to like hear this lengthy thing or see like a really heavy set person with their shirt off going, this is me. And because then they're doing it for all this reward of comments and all this different stuff.
And to, again,
it's a different type of victory lap.
Like if we can talk about this, like how sommeliers talk about wine without it, this is how I feel about it definitively. But like I have comedian friends who, will put like, hey, 3 days ago, suicide or something that's so salacious where you're like, all right, this is a problem and we need to take care of this, but that is not the arena where you should be like trying to use this as some sort of way to get attention or
it brings up different emotions in me. I'd almost rather just see your positives. And if I really know you, then we can share in this kind of thing.
Yeah. But
unless it's a cry for help or you're trying to motivate others. And that's what they'll say they're doing.
Yeah.
But like, let's say you only have 100 people. Like, what do you mean you're trying to motivate others? It's more of a cry for attention.
I saw somebody on Instagram today, like on their story, just some random person I went to college with. Like they're not an influencer by any means, but they're like, oh, I just want to take a minute to remind you guys to drink water. Like, why? Why is this on your story? Like, what are you doing?
What a lame.
Like, oh yeah, you're a legend. Thanks. I forgot. Like,
stay hydrated, y'all.
It's like, what is this for?
You know what? I actually want to find one that I saw that triggered me so much. I just saw one this week. Now, after you share that should be a clip.
You saying
Mark this.
It triggers me.
Write it down.
What you just water thing is very funny. So something Aaron Carter tweeted.
God.
And Aaron Carter is a sweetheart and a really good guy, and he's going through a lot of stuff, and he's had like hell of a journey. I'll tell you that. But the response that some fan gave him was so snotty and awful that I was like, "Ew, is this?" I'll see if I can find it pretty fast. Okay, so Aaron Carter replies.
I'm on pins and needles.
You won't believe it.
Spilled water all over my.
Because you know that we post things that are like, like I just said, it's pretty frivolous. Not everything is meant to be deep. Yeah. Sometimes I'm just like, yo, look at my new Simpsons Yeezys from China that are knocked off.
It shouldn't be deep. And then also it shouldn't be. And then the stuff like kind of what you're talking about, like going back to like, and everyone can kind of see what you've done. Like that's great too. But Lil Wayne said it best. Real G's move in silence like lasagna, bro.
Wow. I don't know if that even makes sense. I like the Chris Brown quote. Us light-skinned bros got to stick together.
Okay. It's just style. It's just a style. Like you could look at what, Kawhi did this year and that's effective. But you can also look at what fucking Kanye's doing. It's like loud works. It's like whatever works for you.
But what is Kanye trying to do?
I think it fell off the... I think his music has always been great. I think he's been great there. I think personally in his mind it fell off the rails a little bit.
Yeah, because
but trying to understand what Kanye's doing is just tough.
Yeah, I like Kanye. I do too. I don't understand the goal of his.
I think the goal is he truly decided that his voice and perspective was the most valid thing to him. To a point where he was willing to push it literally to like biblical terms.
Yeah.
And I think the weight of that kind of like fell back on top of him because it was just too much.
He just sticks to his guns.
Well, because he's still just a dude who shits and is a human, right?
I love him. I think he behaves somewhat like a child. He has this childlike passion in
Absolutely.
him. And children could be wrong very often.
Absolutely.
But he always means well. And as a guy who's always arguing that my intent was just to make you laugh or my intent was just, I think he's very intent heavy.
Absolutely.
I don't think he's ever been unwell intentioned.
Right, but that's what
I love about him.
But I don't understand his intent sometimes. Like
when he does it sometimes.
That's what I mean. Yes, like when you say something, it's like, oh, you're trying to make us laugh. When he goes on TMZ and has this crazy thing, what is he trying to
I think do? Part of it though is have you ever like legitimately battled with like mental health?
No.
So I believe that there's a legitimate like, hey, some shit happened and some wires got crossed.
I found the Aaron Carter thing.
Here we go.
So all Aaron Carter wrote was a screen grab of like a note that he put in his phone as a message to his fans. I'll paraphrase. I can't thank you all enough, and I can't tell you how much I love you and thank you for giving me this life. Ever since I was a kid, all I wanted to do was learn and grow, taking care of myself. Most important thing in life is taking care of yourself, honesty, choices, putting things into perspective, my career, my life choices, blah, blah. And then he says, after it took me 31 years, but I just purchased my very first home and it's feeling very surreal. Pretty sincere message.
Yeah.
Then this dumb idiot person named Liz.
Oh, don't.
Right, I don't care.
Or do it.
Right,
I don't care.
purchasing a house doesn't make you a man or a role model. I know you're
does
proud
that
of your
have to-
home, and that's fantastic. But there's so much more to you. Owning real estate doesn't define you. Owning your mistakes and growing as a person defines you. That's
Jesus
the important
Christ,
part of
Liz.
your message, Liz.
Liz, go to lunch. Fuck. Just go to lunch. Get out of
He
here.
wrote 1,000 virtues. He wrote 1,000 virtues before he talked about his house. And then what you did is you found a way to go, it isn't this, and this is what life's about. And we talk about it at my church all the time. And it's like, shut up, Liz. Get off the internet. He's just a sweet, talented, great man who bought a home and is grateful he's feeling this thing. You want to thank his fans. And you took it upon yourself to try to teach him a
Liz.
lesson. Delete your Twitter. I don't even disagree with you. Yes, those are good things about life, and that's what defines you. But that's not what he was doing.
It doesn't,
You didn't have to
it doesn't
shame him.
apply to this.
Oh, she's the worst.
You know what, Liz? Aaron Carter beat Shaq one day, and that needs to be respected.
I'm really interested. There's gonna be a book.
I don't remember that.
It was a song he wrote, like when he was 12.
The
day I
there's
beat
gonna
Shaq or whatever. I
be
don't
some sort of somebody's going to encapsulate. Like I'm reading about. I'm going to Italy here in a couple weeks, so I started reading about Leonardo da Vinci and Caesar Borgia and
Oh, I got a bunch of good Leonardo stuff.
I don't know how to pronounce his first name, but Nicolai Machiavelli, whatever his.
Yeah.
But he wrote this book, The Prince, about what became essentially modern politics. And up to that point, no one had really kind of encapsulated like what it was going to be. And it's now true as ever. It's the House of Cards stuff and the manipulation and using deceit to get your ends and all these things. Eventually, somebody will entomb all of these lessons we're talking about with social media, because there's a bunch of we're the test case. We don't know what, like, he thought that was earnest, and then this fucking lady comes on and just sees you're just talking about your house. And it's like, so is there a way to approach this intelligently, or is it just gobbledygook and you're just doing your best to keep your lips above the water?
Yeah, it's a good question, because she, and again, I believe her intent was probably good, but she's just not higher minded enough to be able to communicate that. And in fact, even if she heard what I'm saying about her right now, she'd go, that's not what I was doing. I was saying that his message is beautiful. I know, but what a snubby, awful way to try to get someone's attention by like just misinterpreting his message and trying to package it as a compliment.
The fact that there was any negativity that could be brought out of her statement shows. Like,
and the problem is that everyone thinks their opinion matters on every little thing.
Yeah.
One of the best advice I ever got, and I've said this on the podcast, Peter Gray once, I was like chiming on all these message boards on comedy when I was an open micer, which I think is why Ron Funches hates me, but I don't know because he won't talk to me. But there was one time that Peter Gray pulled me aside and he said, he goes, hey man, you don't have to chime in on every fight. You can pick the fights, like sometimes, you don't have to chime in on everything. And I think it was the best advice I've ever been given, even though he was just telling me to be quiet when it comes to like a lot of that stuff, but it's not bad advice.
Yeah.
We don't need your take, Liz, on Aaron Carter's thank you to his fans.
I don't have a following, right?
Yeah.
I have 450 Twitter followers, but I will start to reply to a tweet that someone says, and it'll be like a bad sports take or something, that I'll be like, oh, I got opinions about this, and I'll write out the tweet, and then I'll just be like, nope, because I don't even want the 2 responses I'll get,
dude.
let alone the thousands someone like you could get.
I got a buddy. I hate even giving this energy, but I'll talk about it vaguely. Essentially, I had a friend who was big into conspiracy theories.
Nice.
And
Which are fun.
Which are just
They're fun.
Like, if you can take them lightly, I think it's still interesting to talk about.
Fun.
But I was busting his balls in a way that potentially was like a little harder than he would have liked, because I thought we were close.
Sure,
I
I
thought I
thought you
had
could.
that, and like I liked a ball butt. Like, and everyone in my circle knows that I'm fucking kidding around, whatever. It got butthurt, and this is a guy that like I hadn't even really seen in a long time, and it's not even. It just was like one of those situations where you're like, oh man, why did I even, if I would have just never commented, I
Right.
didn't give a shit about that. It
It
wasn't,
wasn't that big of a deal.
it just, I had no stakes. And then he just was like, sure, Nick, blah, 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 and like,
Turns into a whole thing.
it was like,
Snowballs.
oh my God. And then even when because it was all public at that point, I like just messaged him privately. I was like, man, I got nothing but love for you.
Yeah.
I absolutely apologize for any, just tried to totally like fall on
Yeah.
my sword. And he was just like, you could tell he's still mad. And it's just like, I may never see that person again, but it's still like,
Just a
I just got a loss
misrepresentation
out there on my
yeah.
record for like not really any
wasn't
reason.
worth it. Yeah,
just
100%.
wasn't worth it at all. Like a guy who I know adored me and like I really liked him a lot, and over something that like I will say this though,
not
I
like you
think
were that
conspiracy
attached to it.
theories are ridiculous.
Yeah.
and that's why I'm teasing it. And maybe that is too much for him,
Right.
Because he believes that 9/11 was an inside job.
Sure.
And it's like okay,
Yeah, well, yeah, in his mind, like a lot of people see conspiracy theories as evidence. Like,
Yeah.
oh, here's some arguments
Yeah,
that we
yeah,
should
yeah.
explore as opposed to like,
but it'd be one thing if like you had somebody who has a very whatever this might take, and then they have one specific thing like actually I found out some information about this very
Right.
thing. But it's the people who find out that information. You find a lot of weird information about a lot of things.
Right.
Like are you just attracted to the idea that something is subversive?
Right.
And that's okay. I mean, I'm assuming you are like me, where it's like I just don't like being put in a box.
Right.
I like being a contrarian. I hear what you're saying, but when the evidence is just like there's some shit they just figured out. Like
Right.
Oswald shot
flat Earth.
JFK. They just figured it out. They did the ballistics,
Right.
and it's like they fucking figured it out.
like
it's all there.
It's like flat Earth. They're like really bad scientists. All that science has already been done.
Yeah.
They're in the early stages of redoing the science. You're like, no, this has all been done.
Yeah.
What you're doing is a great scientific mind in
Yeah.
the beginning. If we had no science,
Is it Neil Tyson deGrasse? Is that his
Yeah.
name?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Or Neil, yeah, I always mix it up. But I follow him on Instagram, and he quoted, or he was something where he was tweeting at Flat Earth Society, how come Mars has never been? How come there's not a flat Mars society? Was his
Yeah.
question, and then the Flat Earth Society responded back, well, it's never been proven, or it's been proven that Mars is a sphere.
oh my
And
god,
it's just like,
yes, and that's
just too good.
He just can't interact. His head will explode.
I mean, at that point, it's like it's just hilarious at that. A man of science who studied this, he's a
Yeah,
fucking.
and he's just being thrown out.
Well, that's like one of my
On the
favorite.
Flat Earth documentary, they call him an idiot.
Yeah.
You're like, what are you talking
It's
about?
one of my favorite memes is like the Flat Earth Society's Twitter, and they're like, we have members all around the globe. And it's like, say that again slowly, please.
That's amazing.
Say that again slowly.
Do you know about the Leonardo da Vinci stuff?
I mean, are you talking about the conspiracy stuff?
Not conspiracy stuff, like literally things they've figured out about him in the last 50 years of like studying his stuff. So
Yeah.
what happened was a lot of bad science came out about Leonardo da Vinci. And the truth is, he's one of the greatest painters of all time in the history of the world. He was one of the most fantastic painters. To this day, people can't replicate however he was able to paint the
Yeah.
layers and all the different stuff. They can't figure it out.
Even the curls of the hair and stuff like
Everything.
that. Yeah, they call
Phenomenal.
it's SF. I can never pronounce it right, but it's sfumata. It's the way he blurred technique from painting like through shadow.
Yeah, and with layers, and
Yeah.
no one can recreate
Yeah.
it. They've tried to make machines that can recreate it. But here's the things that we think are true about Leonardo da Vinci that have been proven to be wrong over the last 60 years. Is they found all these old drawings and journals of his stuff, and they give him all this credit of being like this brilliant engineer and like, look at these sketches. I mean, he was drawing a helicopter years before. He drew what might have been the first take on a tank before it was a tank. And then they realized he was reading old journals of monks and things like that. And then just because he's an artist, he's practicing and drawing and sketching. He's just trying to recreate those things based off his own imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So the helicopter that he gets credit for, like that he might have invented before the actual event, was a toy they found in Japan that a tourist probably, or from Asia, sorry, not Japan, that would come through and maybe left this toy, and all he did was scale it up. And the science wouldn't add up. Like if you look at the thing, it's like you can't just scale up a toy to make it a thing.
Yeah.
And the flying, there's a picture of a man with like wings that would be like strapped to his hand that looks like it would be good engineering. It's an actual story of a monk from like 200 years prior to Leonardo da Vinci. That guy broke both of his legs jumping off the top of the monastery. So he's just reading a thing and then going, I'll draw that. And then we find it years later and go, ooh, isn't this interesting? Maybe he was a genius that could build things before. He was a revolutionary mind.
But I guess that's the argument of influence, right?
Yeah.
So is Miles Davis not amazing because he didn't invent the trumpet?
No, but we should never credit him for inventing the trumpet.
Absolutely. But
That's the problem.
Yeah, I think and you're right. It should be clear, delineation. But it's proven that his engineering feats were not amazing.
And you could talk to tons of people who are like, no, dude, have you seen those drawings? And you're like, no, I know that's more sexy. I know that's more interesting, but it's just not true.
He also didn't finish a lot of stuff.
Right.
Like there's tremendous stories of just like, he just never finished it.
Yeah.
And the stuff he did finish, a lot of it's amazing, but he fancied himself an engineer and it didn't work out well. He teamed up. I'm doing some research about a story. Caesar Borgia and Machiavelli and Leonardo da Vinci were in this town called Imola, which is right outside of Bologna. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Bologna.
Yeah, right outside of the Bologna.
But they were in this city for an entire winter, just like coming up with all these like ideas. Yeah. And it's just like, it's like real life Game of Thrones shit.
Yeah.
Like he was in charge of this army. He was the son of the Pope or the grandson of the Pope or something. And like,
it's so interesting, but like that misinformation is always really frustrating, or the assumptions, or like, it'd be like finding blueprints to a house. And instead of saying that guy was really good at like design and drawing, you call him the greatest construction.
So you want it to be, you just want it to be accurate.
Yeah. And especially once we get the information.
Yeah.
As opposed to just going with what's real fun.
But are you cool with like homage, or like if somebody's clearly like, to me, when I see Tarantino, I think of him like Andy Warhol. I don't think of him like Leonardo da Vinci. I think he takes art and he like clips it all up and he makes his own.
I guess what I'm upset with is like, let's say 100 years from now, someone watches a Tarantino film where Brad Pitt is shooting Adolf Hitler with a gun, and instead of doing a little information, they just go, oh, was it like he shot? And they're like, yeah, he was murdered by these like real courageous, handsome Jewish people that like broke into a theater. And you're like, no, that was a movie. And you're like, no, I think that's true. I think that's how he really went. And you're like, no, dude. Like, what are you talking about? That was art. That's all it was. Or like, like, I think that's what annoys me. Is like, you have to go, no, that's not what it is. Even though that is more interesting and way more fun to run with, we got to like do a little homework.
You're asking for some discernment, some actual like, let's take the whole and
I like that we just came full circle. Back to your annoyance.
Yeah. Wow, that's
tiny annoyance.
Because people just say things like that, like, didn't he do that? And you're like, no, I don't think that's... And like, it reminds me of my sister, who once at Thanksgiving tried to tell my whole family that Adolf Hitler was Jewish. And I was like, no, he's famously Austrian and had a pretty big problem with the Jews. I don't know if you know that. And she goes, no, but... And in front of my whole family, she goes, no, that's what made it so interesting, is that he was really Jewish. And I was like... I know you think it's interesting, but it's not true.
It's specious. Yeah, it's like, it sounds like it would be the thing.
Right.
And it's just not.
It's just purely not the thing.
It's just not.
No matter how interesting the thing might be.
It's the flat earth of sister comments.
You stumbled upon a thing like, what if the earth is flat? And you're like, oh, I know, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? But we don't need to create communities and have flat Earth conventions just because you think.
Nope, we're gonna buy all the way in.
Yeah, they just go all aboard. I don't know what made me write this down, but we were talking about something earlier. Maybe it's you said it when you were like kind of summing up modern day stuff, but like how one of my biggest pet peeves about modern day things is we call things that are purely deceit or dishonesty or whatever, clever. So we'll be like, let's say someone finds a way to save $100,000 on their taxes or something. And they'll go, found a loophole. Smart, huh? And you're like, no, you're not smart for doing it. And maybe tax is a bad one because everybody is going to feel guilty about that. But like, you'll find a way and then go, it's actually pretty genius though. And you're like, stop calling things that are latently wrong genius.
Well, that's, I think, in something that's, I would like to write more about, just maybe not as a comic or something, but I think our brains are obsessed with stories.
Yeah.
And so you then do something like that that's morally ambiguous, and then you create a justification around that or a story, and you say like, oh, well, that's what smart people do. And so as a society, we do, like, especially as creatives who are out in the world and people are paying to come see us perform and things like that, you have a tremendous responsibility because you're shaping what that story is.
Sure.
That's essentially what culture is. And I think recognizing that it's because we love, our obsession with cinema and with television, that clearly it's in me, that story, it drives my brain. I sleep at night and my brain is coming up with all these crazy fucking stories.
Right.
And it's all stories. And so if we can recognize the power of that in our mind and maybe give that a little bit more validity, because
which is maybe why I'm always trying to glorify positivity and how much I love life. And in my act, it can be annoyingly positive. And I talk about people's annoyance with my positivity because all the other comics are glorifying negativity, and they're glorifying it'll seem funny to be like, I just hate people. And then someone goes, oh, I like that idea. I should go around telling people like, oh, I'm not a people person. Oh, I like cats because I don't have to like deal with people. Like it's become romanticized to have horrible values. Yeah. And so I'm always on stage wanting to be like, it's okay to like things and it's okay to love life and here's some things I love.
But is that your I mean, if you're honest with yourself, is that your reaction to feeling like the collective is doing this thing and you're going, this is how I can feel special
every day
or
I
different?
wake up and I wake up hungover and I wake up feeling like shit and a day older, and yet I still wake up and go, I love my life. This is such a good life. And I love people. I love being around people. Yeah. So I'm not going to buy into these, to be a comic, you have to be depressed and hate everyone.
It's different in your personal life than your stage persona, unless you're really wanting to like shove that together.
I meld both of them together very well.
Because some people don't. Some people, it's like a put on, you can tell.
The only thing I hide is maybe my level of information that I know. I ham up that I don't know stuff. Yeah. A little bit more, but when I'm saying that I'm dumb, I mean like I'm book dumb. Like I'm not like I don't know all 50 states, or I couldn't name most of the countries I've been to. Sometimes I sound like a liar. They're like, "Where'd you go in Germany?" And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like,
but
"This guy never
came." That's part of the cultural story.
Yeah.
Because if you don't come across humble, people don't want to let you through.
Right.
There's in this environment, and this is something that I've tried to talk about on stage and I cannot get it to work. But in me inherently I was a very cocky kid. And it was just, I don't know if it was a result of like being with a single mom. She was very confident and I was I was loud, and on the bad side of it, it was like I was a know-it-all. But on the good side of it, I was like very confident and started doing fucking magic tricks when I was a little kid and like got, very good at it. And it just instilled this idea in me. But then when I was like 18, I had somebody take me aside and be like, yeah, people think you're an asshole. Yeah. And it's like, well, am I an asshole, or do they just think I'm an asshole because I think I'm? Because I feel like
well, that's what Kanye talks about. What you just did is exactly what Kanye talks about. Everyone hates Kanye. Not everyone, but a large group of people hate Kanye, and they think that he's cocky and they think that he's whatever. And when Kanye wasn't being Kanye, they enjoyed his music, and some even said, "This is brilliant." Yeah. However, when Kanye enjoys his music and says, "This is brilliant," they go, "Did you hear what he just said?" And then he goes out and says, "Hey, now's the time to love yourself and be a bright color and say that like what I'm making is special. And you told me it was special. My mom told me I'm special, and I went out and I became me. And then now you hate me because I become me and because I say I love me." So there's a great tug of war in the hearts and souls of every person of like, I want to be great, but I have to pretend to not be. And I'll take real love of themselves or real confidence or real arrogance over fake humility any day.
Absolutely.
And I hate when you see American Idol, people go, "Oh, like me? Oh my God, I had no idea." What are you talking about? You're beautiful and you sing incredible. You should, what are you acting like little old me? It's like, no, what do you mean?
I mean, and again, to have an intelligent conversation about that is, I mean, I was a study of, I won the world championship. I was the #1 ranked junior close-up magician in the world when I was 16.
Yeah, but that's fantastic.
It inflated my sense of self to a point when I went into the rest of the world, and especially when I started doing comedy and really getting into it, taking those licks really, because there's also a tremendous sensitivity to me specifically. And so that's now, I feel like only, by going through that and going like, and then still forging through and trying to create art that I actually give a fuck about.
Right.
Only, it's been 20 years. Now am I finally tempered enough to actually go like, all right, here's what I want in the world. Yeah. Thus something like the Unlikely Assassins thing.
I'm only humble about things I'm bad at. And I'm overly humble about it. Like, I suck at this, and I have no reason to believe that. Like, people make fun of my clothes. I'm like, I've never pretended to know anything about fashion. Or they make fun of something. Like, I will never get carried away playing like shuffleboard because I'm like, I don't care enough. And it's okay to be bad at this in my brain. However, I will never be humble about the things that I'm great at. Because I'll be very proud of those.
What you're talking about is, and this is the place where I kind of got to. You want the truth,
right?
If you're fucking great at something, and Kanye believes that he bought into some like next level what he felt was his truth, and I think that's what fucked people up.
Did you ever see that concert he did with Jay-Z, I think, where they put themselves on giant tower boxes and the audience had to be underneath them on these things, and the whole premise of that set design, she's a brilliant set designer, and I feel horrible that I forgot her name. She's like the #1 set designer in the world. They had to perform on separate blocks far, by and large, away from the audience, and the audience wasn't happy about that. But it was a metaphor for that. Like, once you're at the top and once you're doing that thing, you are on top and you are above, but you feel isolated, you feel different, you feel separate then.
Set the wash
and
the
you
throne.
worked so hard to get up there, but now you're so different and so far and so looked, and on a pedestal. It was a beautiful metaphor for those things.
Yeah.
So maybe mental health problems come with
but it's
any
also,
level
it doesn't
of,
have, like, when you hear that story, then there's like, even coming from the Midwest, like people would go out to LA and like, be careful, you're gonna go out there and become a cocaine addict and an asshole and all these things, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, why you put that
just
on
sounds
me?
like your story, you know? Like, and maybe that's true because it doesn't seem like that was true for Jay-Z, but it was true for Kanye, and it for who's somebody in comedy that like burned out, they went crazy. There's Jerry Seinfeld,
right?
Who's just like calm and nice.
Gallagher
and
doesn't get any love.
Yeah.
You got the Dane Cook haters. You got all these like monsters that were big.
Yeah, but it's
people
like,
turned on Jamie Foxx. I mean, like people turn on.
Yeah. I think it's what the energy you bring to it.
Sure.
And back to the point of like, to me, it's about honesty. If I have the set of the fucking night, I'm walking around with a 10-foot dick. Like, I feel like
set of the
amazing.
night. Yeah.
But when I don't, I know it.
Yeah.
I fucking know
So
it.
there's
And
great set, and I go, no, it wasn't.
I will beat myself up for that.
We're very
more
similar that
than
way.
and potentially.
But I do that my whole life.
Yeah.
I do that with everything. When someone asks me about a subject that I feel like I'm the one at that, you're going to see like, ooh, Jeff can be a little cocky about that. Yeah. However, like I don't pretend to be cocky about any of those other things.
Yeah.
So if we have a dinner where we only talk about things I'm bad at, you'll be like, oh, what a nice guy Jeff was. But there might be a subject where I'm like, oh, you want to start talking about Bigfoot?
Yeah.
You don't know anyone that knows more about Bigfoot than me. And if you're going to disagree with me, I'm going to look pretty cocky.
Yeah.
But that, you can live with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I can live with, I like that level of like candor. In my experience, you run into people who you really want to talk about the truth. They don't really want a gut check. They don't really want, like, most people don't want to be dynamic.
Right.
It's just, and I'm not saying in LA, or I'm saying I've traveled all over and seen. It's hard to be honest.
Yeah.
It's easier to tell yourself a simpler story of, oh, well, I'm just this person and this is my thing and this is my lane and I'm going to stay there. It's harder to wake up every day and say, I'm going to challenge a bunch of even my own ideas.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep pushing myself past where it's comfortable. And even if I fail, like legit, I mean, I run this comedy show in Culver City in the back of a barbershop, and we've been running it for 7 years now. And we've had like fucking
Everyone.
Dave Chappelle and all these crazy.
I think
Jeff's
I did
done the show.
Yeah, I did the night Kyle Kinane was the headliner.
Yeah, we've had so many crazy people, and I run this show, and I was at a time where my stand-up career was going in a trajectory that was like, all right, cool, this is what I'm going to do, and then I like it. Simultaneously, I found screenwriting to be a little more satisfying. It's like all these things, and even last night, I'm on stage, tons of fucking great talent. And I go up there and I have a set that was like, the first half was really strong, but the last half I tried something really new, kind of worked, didn't, but walked off to kind of like a feeling.
That's the worst.
It just wasn't there. And then I didn't get the, hey, great set from, blah, 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 all those things. But what does that really fucking matter?
Right.
Why? I run the fucking show.
Yeah.
I book the thing. I could go up there and eat my own dick if I could just not care what people thought.
Sure.
And it's not even the audience. It's like the other guys are running the show with me. It's like I don't want to let them
that's
down.
healthy though.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a complete masochist about it,
Yeah.
but I also want to let the fear go,
Right.
and put the work in.
Sure.
Be honest, like, hey, that day, actually write something new. Actually, don't just go up there with bullshit,
Right.
But not let the fear kind of keep me from that process.
But then that day comes when you walk off stage and you don't care. That means you're done, right?
Yeah, because it is tricky.
Because
You
if you're
want
gonna
them to
walk
like
off and
you.
you're like, you know what, I don't care if they thought this was good or bad. That's the part of it that keeps you up there, right?
I have been on, like, there was a time when I was touring so much that I did feel like I was on stage, like, I just don't, there's no stakes. I have no fear of audience. I have no, and that's when I had to, like, get off doing
Right.
like the middle of nowhere road. And
I think that goes with anything we do, right? If there's not that part of it. Then
Yeah, Ichiro said that
no,
once.
you're right.
He was in
I
Japan.
appreciate you reminding
Ton of
me
move.
of that, because you do, that stakes is what gets you to move forward. I mean, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I think Ichiro said that once. Like the day he stops loving baseball is when he'll quit. But and he can say that because I don't think he'll ever stop loving baseball. Like he tried to play, like his body gave up before his heart did.
he'd still love to play right now if he could.
But he can't.
Just
So he
a
had to.
really random thing. I was a huge Ken Griffey Jr. fan when I was a kid, and I
call.
have a silly collection of his rookie cards.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And a fun, crazy story. When I was a kid, I couldn't afford the
89 upper deck.
Yeah.
That's the one to have.
Yeah. I couldn't afford it when I was a kid. And you know Joe Zimmerman?
Yeah.
Joe Zimmerman has subsequently also done this. But we were really drunk one time. We were in the comedy condo in Louisville, and we were playing Risk, and we were just like, you know how Risk makes people really intense.
Yeah.
And then something happened. It came up where it's like, I was like, wait a minute, I could just I'm an adult with money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could just buy that fucking card
Yeah,
right
have it.
now. And I went online and they
$15 or $5.
No, it's the exact same price.
No, it's not.
It's like 40.
No. I can get you one for $3. You want one tonight? I'll get you one. I bought one for $5 down across the street. Sherman
Mint
Oaks.
condition.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's impossible to have that card in mint condition because it was the number one in the box set, and the corner of those boxes get dinged. So
I
if you can
have
get a
a-
10, which I have, it's only worth $300. But
I have a 10.
Oh, nice. That's $300.
Yeah. I bought it for $50.
That's great.
And I remember at the time it was
$89 forever.
something. Yeah, it was like a price that was just like I couldn't afford it, you know, whatever, going through the Beckett's or whatever. But then I was like, I realized it wasn't. I thought it would be worth $1 million.
We all did.
And so I came up with this idea that I was going to start buying them up
Oh, no.
just to create value for mine and start fucking Highlandering the heads off of these Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards just to drive the
Right.
market up.
But it won't matter.
Because there's millions of
Millions.
them.
And Upper Deck, and this is a great conspiracy that Upper Deck denies, that they printed solo sheets of that and cut them, which is a huge sin.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Beckett wasn't real.
Yeah,
They just
yeah,
told
yeah.
you what your collection was worth based on no reason or market. They were printing money.
Yeah.
And so the worst part is, too, is that, like,
God, there
when-
should be a
if you-
documentary about that.
there is a
man.
documentary
Oh.
about it. It's called Jack of All
Trades.
Joe Trades, yeah.
Yeah.
But the
Of course there is. What, I can't,
Yeah.
We can't even have an original thought. Like this
No,
is
it's
so
just that, like, that's
interesting.
the whole market. But
Yeah.
but one thing, my sunny disposition again is I wanted all those cards.
Yeah.
Right, that are hanging on. Those were the rookie cards I wanted. Jim Zorn, the Randy Johnson
Yeah.
from the Expos, the Tino Martinez on the USA team, the Electric Diamond rated rookies, Alex Rodriguez. I wanted all those, right? Well, no, I'll never have all those because by the time we're older, it's going to be even more expensive than what it is now.
Yeah.
But the beauty is, we're adults and we
Yeah.
have money,
It was
and
so
I can
good.
have all of them.
Yeah.
And so that's the best part of the story. Who knew? I'm never going to sell them anyways. Fuck off. I want those. I like them. I'm
Well,
happy.
the reality though is in your head, you're like, because I had a neighbor who had a Jordan rookie card, and when he was a kid, he had a Honus Wagner, like the most expensive.
God.
But he got some sort of disease where they had to burn everything. And they had to burn all of his baseball cards.
You're kidding.
Yeah, this is just, and maybe this is a story I was told as a
Yeah.
kid.
Honus Wagner.
But it was just like, it was just this crazy story that like, and I remember thinking like, God, I gotta hold on to these because
Yeah,
they're
and
gonna
we all thought
I don't
that.
want to be that guy.
But what we were holding on to was like 91 Fleer and like
exactly.
90 score, which is
It's like a Karl Malone.
zero. There's it's worth nothing. What can you promote, man? What do you got going on? What can the people find you? Unlikelyassassins.com
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
that's really the big
Highly
thing.
recommend it.
Yeah, just trying to get people to see that web series is. I
need to see that third act, so start
Yeah.
watching.
Start
it.
watching, baby.
Start
Yeah.
getting some clicks in
That's
there.
the big thing. If people want to come out to the barbershop, we do 2 shows, one in Highland Park, one in the Culver City locations once a month. we get, it's just they're amazing shows. Those are the things. That,
Always a good show.
yeah.
I even criticized women there. I did like a whole anti-woman bit, and it went over fine. That's how great the room was.
And we got you on the September show in Highland Park. So
I remember girls going and then I like did my whole bit, and they're like, all right, yeah, he's right.
yeah. It's I'm just working on I'm working on a novel, and I'm trying to get some other projects going. And
I think you're a genius, and I'm sure it's all going to be very successful.
You got to ask him, Jeff. You got to ask him the question.
Yep. Final question of the pod. What happens when we die?
We're worm food.
You believe that?
I believe that the entire religious, this is how I candidly believe. I believe that the whole thing was designed because it doesn't make sense, and it's fear, and that the whole point of heaven and hell is a metaphor for what can happen on earth. And I actually think there's tremendous value in it, knowing that I will be part of this system that it goes on.
So like a real advanced organism.
Yeah, I believe that we're here. I don't mean that pejoratively. Like, hey, I'm just going the ground. I mean, you then go back into the system, and
New soul.
Yeah, and in that respect, you could say, well, isn't that kind of what Hindus are saying? That your soul continues.
Sure.
Isn't that what Christianity is saying?
Yeah, because if I'm a new soul, I don't remember the old ones anyways. I don't remember any of my old ones now. So that means the next one I wouldn't remember this. Why would I remember Jeff Dye as a new soul in 2086 if I don't remember who I was in 1859?
You don't want to remember. You were probably a pretty bad guy back then.
We were all racist then, Tony. We were all racist then.
Yeah.
Not if you were a black guy.
Yeah.
I like to think I was a black guy.
There you go.
I wrote a story in college because I found a philosopher that died like the day before I was born. Mm-hmm. And I just
that's interesting.
It was this philosopher that I was like, oh God, this is a lot of stuff that
He did the math on it. This could be me. I found all the people that died the day before I was born.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And so the thinking was, and I never finished this, but the idea was that you go back and you actually find the person that you were in theory the life before.
Oh, I like that.
And then you find out some sort of mystery about them, like, oh, they were killed. They were murdered. And you have to
I
figure
only
out.
ate wet food and pissed on the neighbor's yard a bunch.
And of course,
Only been dogs.
in my previous life, I was a famous philosopher.
Yeah. Good luck finding the gnat that died the day before.
Yeah.
Or like some sort of
peasant who,
moth.
Yeah, fruit fly.
I was only looking for humans.
Yeah.
Well, we love you, man. I'd love to have you back on. I could talk to you forever.
Yeah, this is great, man. Really
Tony,
appreciate
you got
it.
anything to plug, baby?
Yeah, it's got a lot of Screen Peekers stuff happening. Getting
Nice.
that back cooking.
I love it.
So there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming there. So check that out, youtube.com/screenpeekers. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram at I am Tony Reavis.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for having us. Or thanks for coming back and listening and watching. We love you guys.
Friendship.
How about that episode? Another goodie. I'm glad you guys stopped by. I'm glad you guys are listening to the podcast. I appreciate every single one of you, especially our Patreon subscribers who make this all possible. If you'd like to subscribe, go to patreon.com/Jeff Dye. And your guys' every penny helps. We're still little. We're still a baby pod. And we don't have a lot of money. It's a lot of money that comes out of my pocket and time out of our days. But we love making it, and we're happy you guys are here. You can help us out by rating, reviewing, and subscribing. That's all free. Or you can subscribe to Patreon. Small fee, $10. But yeah, next week we have JC Carias for episode 71. I know you guys are going to love that. If you've listened to this podcast before, you'll know JC's dope. Thanks, you guys. Peace.